When it comes to culture either side of the Atlantic, no one does it better. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you USUK's What's the Difference podcast with Alex Whiteley and Tom Bruno.
Hey guys, welcome to What's the Difference podcast. I'm your host, Tom Bruno.
And I'm Alex Whiteley.
And as always, as every week, we bring you the best guests we can possibly muster up. And today's guest is an amazing person that I have not had the opportunity to really speak with, but I got in contact with him. And it happens to be very timely, you might say, because if anyone has been paying attention to Disney Plus, like everyone does, Mandalorian, they would know a certain 90s sitcom has been added to the roster. You know, Alex, Disney bought up everything. They bought up Fox, and Fox has a lot of rights to a lot of things, including the show called The Dinosaurs. It was this amazingly ambitious project back in the 90s that had like a lot of puppetry and animatronics, and it was all about this family of dinosaurs kind of like living their lives. But like when you're a kid, you don't really recognize how much work goes into a project like this, but as an adult, I'm like, oh, I can't believe they pulled this off. And we actually got somebody who did a lot of the hard, heavy lifting on the show. I would like you all to help me welcome Mr. Pete Abrahamson.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys?
I'm really thrilled.
How's the audio, by the way?
You sound great. You sound great,
okay,
man.
Good. Yes.
Yeah, we haven't got it yet in the UK. There seems to be like a couple weeks, months, sometimes, you know, delay when it comes to the UK. You Americans get all the cool
30
shit.
years then, if you haven't gotten it yet.
Yes. I remember it. I definitely remember it. It was crazy, right? Because I remember it as like, let's take Roseanne and then just switch it, the people with dinosaurs, you know?
Yeah.
That's
That's actually a really good estimate of exactly what it was. It was kind of crude, but a lot of core family values with a lot of like animals threatening other animals that they're going to eat each other all the time. That was like the big threat of the family. He's like, I'm going to eat you. It's like, all right, calm down.
Yeah, it had also quite a bit of honeymooners, you know, going back to Ralph Cramden. Like that was a heavy influence on the show for sure.
Very much so. The overweight dad, and he's like, you know, honey, and you know, just yelling out and stuff. Okay, so Peter, how does this start? First of all, you are an animatronic special effects. What's the proper title for you, sir?
I guess effects artist, I guess, would be the right term. I don't know. I've never really given myself much of a terms, you know. I mean, mechanic, animatronic designer, alchemist. I don't know. You know,
yeah, I like it. Nobody can see what we can see right now. We'll release the video eventually, but you have what seems to be a work office behind you with all sorts of gizmos and rockets and robots and all sorts of crazy stuff popping out.
This is it's my garage, and B, nice. It's my Lego studio. So where other people paint in canvas and use clay to sculpt, Lego is sort of my medium.
You're like the dad from Lego Movie?
In a way, yeah. Except for
nice.
I let my daughter play with my Lego.
Oh, good man.
Lego's great though. I mean, I remember over here in the UK, you guys are aware of Top Gear, right? And
yes.
Richard Hammond had that terrible crash where he nearly died, and he had brain damage, and actually Lego brought him back. You know, the cognitive,
really?
So, yeah, right? Like, putting it back together.
Really did,
like they took some piece of Lego and rebuilt his brain with it. Now he's part man, part brick.
Yes, that's exactly it, Tom. No, they it was sort of more therapy in a way to help him
gotcha.
Like reconnect the pathways within his brain, because it was a major accident. I remember that when that happened. That was the dragster, right? That he
it was like a land speed car or something.
Yeah.
He crashed in crazy fast, like talking like 250 miles an hour or something crazy like that. It was just nuts.
Right. That makes a lot more sense than what I said. Totally makes more sense. Okay, so you're an alchemist. How does that translate to you working in film and TV?
So, you know, I mean, as a kid growing up, I was heavily influenced by, as Alex will know quite well, Jerry Anderson, everything. Thunderbirds, Captain Scarlet, like these were just
Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons.
Like huge for me. UFO, but also, you know, James Bond, everything Ray Harryhausen ever did was massive influences. And come around, you know, of course, in Star Wars was a major thing. But I'm 14. I go see Empire Strikes Back on opening night. I'm blown away. And later that year, I've got some show and tell for you guys.
Ooh.
This comes out.
Wow.
This was issue 2 of Cinefex magazine. I started reading this and all of a sudden was noticing, wow, there's people doing this as a job. This is a career. I could do this as a job for my life. And that was it. Like everything from that point on at 14 was, how do I do special effects? I didn't know what I was going to do. I thought I'd build models. I might sculpt. I didn't really know exactly. But I used to have to make everything. All my model kits had to move. Like I always had to have moving elements on them. All my Lego had multiple wheels on everything that I ever built because it had to look like it came out of the Thunderbirds. So this sort of led me down the path of having to make things move and be animatronic. And my best friend growing up through high school was Mark Satrakian, who is this incredibly gifted, probably the best animatronics film guy. I mean, as we sort of talk about my career, we could talk about Mark too, because I mean, he was the lead on Hellboy. He built Howard the Duck. He was the lead on Gremlins 2. Like, I mean, Mark is famous. Actually, if you guys have seen maybe a couple years ago, what was this artist called Jordan Wolfson who had the female dancing figure, which was this weird sort of white robot figure who she danced in front of you. Mark built that.
Wow.
So
wow.
Genius, right? Like Wile E. Coyote, super genius level. And he taught me my first mechanism, which was we took Teflon tubing, cut little teeny notches in the Teflon tubing, and ran a string through, and then you pull the string and the finger would go, right? And this was like the first mechanism I ever built in high school. And sort of this, he taught me how to sort of do this. And that was it. I watched him go off to college a year ahead of me and then come back and then go start working at ILM immediately because we both grew up in Marin County. So ILM was just up the way. And having him in the business, saw that there was a path for me to make it into the business. So I went to college, did my 4 years at USC, and he called me up and said, I'm the lead on the Blob and I really need your help. Can you come help me? And so I was still finishing off my classes and going in on weekends. And then comes I finished that semester. I come into the shop and I said, hey, I'm done. I can now work for you full time if you need. He throws me in this Mach 1. He's got this Mustang Mach 1 with the passenger seat removed because he used to put his keyboards there. So he didn't have the full length for the keyboards. So I'm sitting basically in the back seat while he drives me out to Simi Valley to a place called Dream Quest. And it's an effects shop. And that's where they're doing the effects of the Blob. And he hands me a set of Allen keys and goes, you're the on-set mechanic. I have to go back to the shop, and just leaves. And so there I was, trial by fire, having to learn how to deal with mechanical elements that were all in the Blob, basically puppeteering also on the Blob, and sort of learning as I go. And that was sort of the throwing myself into the fire right there.
How amazing is that? I mean, probably at the time, but you were shitting bricks. But I mean, what education, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, it was scary, but everybody else that I was sort of with was all kind of like new to effects. You know, there was a couple of older people that we worshipped, like Mike Fink and Gary Platic, and like people was like, oh my God, Lyle Conway, who was the lead on the Blob for the effects at the time, that we sort of like, I bow to you, you are the man, right?
We are not worthy.
I just sort of learned by doing, and it was a great way to do it, was sort of, can you survive being on set? Yes, I can. So it worked. I did a couple other jobs, and then somebody told me about a possibility of getting a job working for the Henson Creature Shop on Dinosaurs, which had just done the like pilot season, which was like 8 episodes or something small.
Yeah.
And so I
Very
went in
short
and interviewed with John Criswell. And next thing you know, I had a job for 2 years.
Wow.
On the CBS MTM lot, showing up at 6 a.m., picking up dinosaur heads, taking them from the creature shop up to the set, and then being an on-set person.
That's amazing. So you trial by fire with the Blob leads
Yes.
to you working for the Dinosaurs with the Jim Henson Creature Shop, which is, you know, world renowned, ultra famous when it comes to puppetry and animatronics. You know, there is almost no equal to them. You know, some would probably say Sam Wilson, obviously, or Winston. Sam Winston definitely is another one of the top tier ones.
And Rick Baker.
And Rick Baker, of course. Rick, let's not forget about the all powerful American Werewolf from London, Rick Baker. Let's you know, come on now. But
just so you know, there's also a couple of other smaller films. There's other stuff I did in between. Like I didn't just go from the Blob to Dinosaurs. I did Beethoven. I did Addams Family. I did some theme park stuff. But the Alien 3, and then I got hired on to.
I just barely watched your CinemaSins this morning for Alien 3 because that's what I do when I wake up now. I get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning because my work schedule, and I didn't have to work today, but I'm still stuck on the schedule. I watched CinemaSins all morning, and Alien 3 is the one I watched this morning. So like, man, I love that one. So what'd you do? The android bishop being stuck in the thing? Oh, that was great. That's a great effect.
So that effect was done first in England with an RC head that didn't really work. And then they went fully cable, and that was all wrong. And it just like Fincher was unhappy. ADI, Amalgamated Dynamics, which is Tom Woodruff and Alec Gillis, they weren't happy. So they came back to the States and were going to do pickup reshoots. And they hired my boss at the time, which was on Beethoven, which was Dave Nelson, who was an amazing animatronics guy. He's built a shit ton of puppets over his lifetime. Brought me in with him to rebuild just the head as a full RC head. So I would basically get his designs and just go manufacture. I'd be the only there was 3 of us at ADI at the time, and that was it. I just sort of built this head, and then we attached all the skin and puppeteered it, or I didn't puppeteer. I wasn't there on set, but programmed it and did all that. So
that must feel amazing, though, that you've gone out and you fixed a problem. But like, have you ever had a situation where it's like you spent hours, days making something, you take it to the studio, and they're like, "No, that's not what we're looking for."
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That must be horrible.
That happens. It's not that. What ends up happening is, so you're sitting there, you're puppeteering, right? You've got something, and you're doing this thing, and you're underneath a set, and you've got like drywall screws in your back, and you're in the worst uncomfortable position, and you're looking at a little teeny monitor. You can barely hear the director, and the director's going, "This is great, but let me see you wiggle the teeth." And you look at the other puppeteers and go, "Wiggle the teeth? Can you wiggle the teeth? There's no mechanism." "Okay, we're wiggling the teeth." "Great, roll."
Yeah, I certainly wiggle those teeth extra good for you. That show. This is great, right?
I mean, it's like, but there's been multiple times when you'll be in the studio and somebody will come in and they'll look at the sculpt, which is in Roma clay or wed clay, and they'll look at the sculpt and go, "Well, is it going to be this color?" You're like, "No, that's clay. Of course it's not going to be this color." Like, how can you be a visionary director if you can't see what your thing's going to be?
No.
Or why is this I want it to be expressive. Why is this expression so neutral? Well, because we have to have somewhere to go. Like, we have to be able to go from here to here, like, come on, guys. So
when you're working on something as ambitious as Dinosaurs, what problems do you expect to find when you go to your first day? Like, what's something that you're like, okay, I'm here, I know this is going to be an issue right off the bat, just based off the knowledge that I have going into it?
I had no idea what was going to be the problem. Like, I hadn't looked into the heads when I got hired. I was just like, okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to be an on-set mechanic. You're going to maintain these things. Criswell did say, these have been rough. They came from England, and they were not really set up for a They were made for movies, not for television. And
metric.
they were made for like, okay, we could get a few takes out of this and we'll be good. Not, okay, we've got to shoot for weeks at a time with this stuff, 8 hours a day. You know, the puppet is on for at least 8 hours of a 12-hour working day, right? So it's got to survive. And what was happening during that first season is that a lot of things were breaking. There was a lot of Bondo. There was a lot of sort of like just, it wasn't made for long-term use. And so Chris said, we're going to rebuild all of this. We're going to make it in a way that is serviceable, because what would happen is we would have a servo burn out. And they used to tell us that it was $10,000 every 10 minutes was what we were losing if a head was down. If we were not rolling, that was what we were losing. So we were stressed beyond belief, like turning screws as fast as you can. How fast can I get that servo back in? Trying to fix stuff. And there's times when things were so bound in there and so deep that you had to get a chisel to knock out the Bondo to get it out. And like, this was not a way to make it serviceable and make it last. So Chris and the rest of all of us, Mike Scanlon being one of them, John Biggs, Roger McCoy, said, we're all going to rebuild all of this. And we rebuilt every single head between season 2 and 3. I think there was a long hiatus, and we just spent the whole time in the shop and just totally rebuilt these heads. Carbon fiber internal shells that the servos just plug in, easy access hoods that sort of come off and come apart. Like, everything was made for serviceability because of how much time these things had to stay on thing. And what was funny is that rebuild made the head so much better that we rarely had downtime. Even just to swap out a servo was like, it took us a few minutes, and we always had a second head to bring in. So it's like, oh, let's take Earl head number 1 off. We'll put head number 2. They can continue shooting. We'll go back in the room and we'll change out that servo and fix it.
Like NASCAR.
Yeah, basically. I was a pit crew, basically. Thank you.
I was going to ask you.
Formula One, by the way. I prefer Formula One.
Formula One, good man, good man. Sir Lewis Hamilton, no?
Yes,
yes. I've got to ask, when you are dubbing and you're doing the mouths, you're doing the dialogue, how difficult is that to get right? I've always wondered that about TV, because the mouth has got to match what's being said, right?
So how they did it on Dinosaurs is you had the puppeteers do it live. You know, there's Mac Wilson doing Earl. Hey, Franny, you know, and he would do his whole thing and program it in. They're recording his track completely. So they have his full voice track. Then they go back and they bring in Stuart Pankin, who did the voice of Earl, and he lays over the top using what Mac already did for emotion as his wild track, sort of as his key. Where unlike, let's say, cell animation or like old school animation, you would usually do the audio first, and then you would do the key points within that audio of the E-A-O-U kind of stuff as you went through to hit those marks with the animation. Now this, we were doing it ahead of time with a wild track and then coming in with voiceover afterwards. And it was really the best way. Like it allowed for a lot of sort of change up on set so that you weren't locked into a certain like emotional thing or a line. Like they could change a line right then and there and it become funnier and go, wow, that was the take we really want. So now Stuart just came in and laid over the top of that.
There is a multitude of dinosaurs in the show The Dinosaurs. There's there's men, there's women, there's Dilophosaurus, not Dilophosaurus. Yes, there's a huge variety of dinosaurs. Which animatronic or puppet did you go to sleep having nightmares about? You're like, this motherfucker, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and it's gonna give me the same problems it gave me yesterday. That either, you know, what was the puppet or the animatronic that really sealed the deal for you?
Who was the hardest to work on? I think Monica, the big brontosaurus, was one of the more difficult heads. I don't think she got a rebuild right off the bat. So that she was still a lot of older styles, and that definitely took a lot of work. Earl became really rock solid. Fran was pretty good. I had rebuilt the Robbie head myself. And that was pretty easy, except for the annoying part was you had to unglue. So you know how he's got his little spines, right?
Yeah.
On top of Robbie. So
Yes.
in between each spine was the skin came up and glued in between each one. And so you'd have to use like some acetone to separate the glue, pull the skin apart to be able to pull like hatches that came out. And then I had full access to all the servos underneath. But it was kind of the other ones, you just kind of pull the skin up and over the top of the skull, where this was you had to sort of open him up from above and then re-glue. And that was kind of a little annoying. It's like, shit, I have to get inside this. I wonder if I can, let's see. Can I share?
I can make you the host so you can share. I can absolutely do that.
Yeah, I've got a photo or two that maybe I can show you of Robbie.
It made a lot of sense to me when you said that Monica was the hardest, because the length of her neck and head alone is half of a room. It's like half of a stage. It's a huge animatronic.
She was on a like a camera jib, basically, like a dolly with the big sort of that head on that thing to puppeteer and thing. Stuff that was great was like the baby. The baby was
not the mama.
Just sort of you had the head, which was a puppet with a little sock on it that fit into the body. And that just the two came apart. Grandma was kind of similar. She had a head, but the rest of her body was kind of built into that wheelchair. And Dave Greenway would climb in there and get up inside there and do his little bit from inside. Richfield was probably the easiest. He was a free floating head that you would just stick your hand behind and could just stand.
Richfield is the first time I ever heard Jimi Hendrix when they ate the plants that got him all stoned and everything. And he's like, "Excuse me while I kiss the sky." I was like, I don't know what that is, but I love it. Wow.
So here's the inside of Robbie. You can see down below, you can see Tilden's head under there with the skull cap, and then the jaw and the smile functions, and then the eyes, the blinks, the brows, his fins that move back and forth. So that was like my first real big on my own animatronic head, looking over at Criswell all the time and saying, "Am I doing this right?" But he basically just said, "Let me go."
Wow.
I mean, I was 20, what was I? 24, 25, somewhere around there.
Amazing. I just took a picture of that. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. This is actually, I mean, I think this is out there or whatever, but yeah, we can. And if you want, I can send a bunch of this stuff to you. I mean, if that makes it easy.
That'd be amazing.
That'd be. This is such a experience.
I think this is the only dinosaurs thing I have in here. So, but I have a bunch of other.
He was my favorite growing up. He was. I don't know. I just related to him.
Yeah.
I used to like the way he always used to wiggle around, and he used to be like, "Oh no, Dad!" He used to be the whiny teenager, and I liked that. That was like the Bart Simpson-esque kind of.
Yes. Very much so.
Yeah.
And I particularly enjoyed like a couple of the key Robbie episodes, because they, being a boy and like looking up the teenagers at the time, I really kind of felt exactly what Alex was feeling. Like I resonated with him. Like episodes like the Howling episode where him and his father are trying to howl at the moon, and that was that's really good stuff. What about that giant swamp monster? I always wondered about that thing, because it's large in life, has these huge horns, and every time that they'd go out in the bog, they'd always be like, "Well, the bog monster," and he'd be like, "Roar," and he'd rise up out of nowhere in this gigantic head with these huge teeth. Alex, do you want to try to pull up the bog monster really quick on your end?
Yeah, I'm actually having a hard time remembering, since that was.
I mean,
I can't
for me. So.
Sorry, I know this is a real lull in the whole thing. You said you worked on Gremlins, the new batch as well. Did I hear you say that? I did
not work on Gremlins. Mark Satrakian worked on Gremlins.
Okay. I actually have your IMDb.
Mark was.
I have your IMDb pulled up, and we're gonna play a game at the end of this before you head out, which is, were you really on this or not? Because as many times as we pulled up IMDb to ask our guests about it, like, I wasn't in that. I'm like, oh, now we look stupid. So now it's a game.
If it's on IMDb, I put it on there.
Oh,
usually it's because they don't fucking know who I am.
I gotta say though,
I am just effects guy. Like, we have to go put in all of our own stuff all the time. If you want, if an effects guy has a credit, it's because he made the credit exist.
Which is bullshit, by the way, because we
Thank you.
not fake. I mean, like it's wrong because we spoke to Mick Strawn. Mick Strawn is, I don't know if you know him. He does the visual effects for Blade. He's done what
Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4.
We've spoken to him, who works in the background. We spoke to Brian Graydon, who's one of the biggest TV executives on the planet, but people won't know who he is. We like to. We've been speaking to a lot of people from the background who physically with their bare hands made movies, and we found it's such amazing.
Is that a Tenet reference?
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
We're so classy.
Sorry.
I can't find a picture of this thing, Tom. We'll just have to.
That's fine. Regardless,
it might have been a puppet that we just like green screened and made it look bigger. That was probably how it was done.
It would make the most sense, and just because I was like, oh wow, I have the opportunity to ask you about it. On your IMDb, it says that you worked on Idle Hands, and since you put it in there, I'm guessing that's the case. I fucking love that movie.
Really?
Oh yeah, so much.
Could barely remember. I mean, I built P-Nub, his head. There's a head that gets carried around, right?
Yeah,
that's what I made.
Oh.
I don't even think I might have gone to set like one day. I barely even remember it, but it was just sort of carry around his head for the shot kind of thing.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, it's bad.
Your IMDb is amazing, by the way, Peter. I was like, I was sat with a coffee, sort of instead of reading the morning paper, I research my guest who's coming on, obviously. And going for your IMDb, I was just like, oh no, oh my god, because one of my favorite films ever is Hellboy 2. Hellboy 2 is one of the most beautiful looking movies. Makeup wise, it's just outstanding. What was that? I mean, that movie is perfect visually.
So the only thing I did on Hellboy 2 was Mark and the Spectrum Motion team were already in Budapest shooting, and he needed some help with there was some servo motor controllers that were in Angel of Death's big wings that lift up to get the motors to lift those. And so I only really came in to sort of work on that and make that work. But I actually didn't do a lot of work on Hellboy 2 other than that. I did a crap ton of work on Hellboy, the first film, but I just did a little bit on Hellboy 2.
Which was equally, I mean, it was good for different reasons. Hellboy 1 was like, had a better story, I think, and it was like the introduction to the character, whereas Hellboy 2, they kind of went all out with the visual, didn't they? They were kind of like, we're going to make, it was fantastic. I wanted to ask you, that ruins my question about Doug Jones. Did you manage to work with Doug Jones much? Because he is...
Many times.
He is one of my idols. That guy...
he's the best.
He's amazing.
Doug. There's love for you. Like, it's Doug. It's like, he's the best.
If you don't know who Doug Jones is, by the way, listeners, you are...
Shame on you.
Yeah. He is. He's one of the guys that Hollywood goes to play the guy in the suit.
No, please go ahead. You first, Peter.
Oh, I was going to say, let's see. I was going to try to list off all the different things. There was this horrible straight-to-video, I think it's shot in Romania, called The Legend of Galgameth. That was the first thing I worked with him on when I was working at Alterian Studios for Tony Gardner, where we built this giant, like, Godzilla dinosaur suit for him that he wore and was in. And he had just done, like a year prior, he did Hocus Pocus as Billy the Butcher. And so that's why he was, and like Alterian said, oh, well, because they did the effects for that, said, we need Doug because Doug's the best. And then we also worked on Warriors of Virtue, which was Kung Fu Kangaroos. It was like another kind of straight-to-video thing. We shot it all in China. He was one of the characters in that. And, of course, Abe Sapien. He was in Hellboy as Abe, right? Yes. So, like, I've known Doug for years. And every time I see him at a convention, it's always a giant hug. Like, he's the best guy ever. And he will just wear a suit until he's about ready to fall over. And you're like, Doug, you need to drink. You need to eat. Like, he was just going.
He's phenomenal.
gifted. One of my favorite people to work with.
Star Trek, the new Star Trek. He's Saru, and he literally just acts with his eyes, really, and his arms. Because when he walks, he does like this sway thing with his arms, which is just brilliant. By the way, people slamming that show so much this new season. I'm like, what? He got Doug Jones for like every
episode. Dog in it.
15 hours of Doug Jones. Shut the fuck up. It's great.
He's one of those people that you can recognize by body shape alone. Like when you see a tall, thin man in the suit, you're like, oh, that's Doug Jones, clearly.
That's Doug. Yeah.
I would be remiss if I was not to ask you what it was like working with Jim Henson, or if you got to work with him at all.
Sadly, he had already passed before I started working. My closest contact, I mean, of course, working there, I mean, I know Brian and I know Lisa, like, you know, I knew all the rest of his family and I knew all the people from the Creature Shop. But Jim himself, when I was in college, he came to LA and was going to do a talk at the Directors Guild. And so Mark Strachan and I got tickets and went to go see him speak. And he was talking about, you know, the Dark Crystal and talking about the Muppet Show and all these things.
Labyrinth.
And people are sort of building and chanting, like, bring out Kermit. And so he goes, okay, fine. I'll bring out Kermit. So he reaches over from the podium and pulls up Kermit. And Jim just goes away. Jim just disappears. Like, all you can see, he's standing on stage with the puppet on him, and all you can see is Kermit. Like, that's all you focus on. And yet there he is in a button-up shirt and jeans, and he's standing there, but you can't see anything but Kermit. It was one of those, like, Bunraku Japanese puppetry where the puppeteers are there, but they just disappear. Like, how quickly he just went away and became Kermit. Like, that is a power to say. That's why, like, Yoda is so great, is because once Frank puts his hand in there, like, you don't see that puppet, you don't see Frank, you just see Yoda. You believe in Yoda.
It's
hence while The Mandalorian's so good with the child physical effects. I know a bunch of those guys who are doing that puppeteering, and it's just fabulous. Like, it warms my heart to watch that show every time, just to go, look at that, it's a puppet.
It's amazing. We talked about this with Mick Strawn when he came on our show. We were talking about, like, that horrible era, sort of like the late 90s, sort of noughties, where they went CGI crazy, and it was horrendous, a lot of it. But, like, and the same with the prequel movies for Star Wars, you know, they were kind of like went CG crazy. Now with the Mandalorian, you know, they've done it as well before, but we've seen this nostalgic kind of return to using models for scenes, and like you said, Grogu. It's a throwback, and it's proven to be really popular. Does this always happen? Is this like a repetitive thing for the visual arts versus CGI sort of battle?
I mean, I am a full believer in the proper tool for the proper job. That is what you do. Like, there are times a puppet is the wrong thing to use because it just cannot achieve the same things. I mean, like, let's take going back to Jurassic Park. There was a T-Rex puppet, as well as there was a beautiful CG full body T-Rex for walking. And so you would use that head to come push the glass of the Jeep down. That was a real head. But then you would have it chase the Jeep, and that's a CG. That is the way to do it, is you need to blend these two in a way that it seems seamless, right? They should never be dominant of either one. In Hellboy, like, Doug's eyes were so big and difficult and so close to his face that putting a mechanism there to make the nictating membrane blink was really difficult. So Guillermo said, screw it. Let's just do the blinks digital, which was great. So we could have Doug be Abe Sapien and move around, and then, and it's just super quick, and it blends in nicely. And that's the kind of way you want to do it. Like, I fully believe CG is great when you intermix it properly with what needs to be there. Don't make the world green and then say, well, we're just going to stick everything in there. No, go make some things practical. And I think Mandalorian it's been a sort of, it's partly a reaction to shitty CG, but it's also like the technology achieved a level that they went, we can make it like this, so that it's CG in the background on this giant dome, that you can't tell is a dome, looks like just a backdrop to you, but it is all digital. And if we need to change a mountain, we'll go edit and change a mountain. What a way to do it. Like that, I cannot give them more credit for taking effects to the level that they need to be at.
Yeah.
With what you were saying with this should be seamless, you really should not be able to tell the difference. Like it's always nice to have like the up close visuals of the T-Rex, but at the same point in time, the CGI was so well done and it still holds up. Like when you watch Jurassic Park today, it still holds up amazingly well. You're like, wow, I can't believe this movie's 20, 30 years old. And you do see the T-Rex running alongside the Jeep. You're like, you can't really tell the difference unless you're a little bit in the know. I see on your IMDb credits, back to it, that you actually worked on one of my favorite movies that I get so much flack for, and I'm wondering what kind of work you did for this. Van Helsing. I love that corny, cheesy movie so much.
Van Helsing. The crew of Hellboy went to go shoot in Prague, and the production was only going to take like 4 people from Spectral Motion. So Mike Elizalde, the head, Mark Satrakian, the lead animatronics, Tom Flouts for makeup, and Garbarino for makeup. So they took a very small crew, and everything else was going to be local. And I was devastated because I love going to set. Like, it's my favorite part is build and then take it to the set and then perform it in front of camera. And I couldn't do that. And a friend of mine had been working on Van Helsing and said, we're going back to Prague to shoot second unit stuff with stunts and things. Can you go babysit a bunch of this stuff for the Frankenstein suit? And I was like, sure, that's great. And I'll be able to go visit the Hellboy set. Well, I get to Van Helsing. I show up there. Brian Wade, who is an amazing makeup artist, he's there locally now, living in Prague. He and I are sort of getting out all the stuff. And we set everything up. And we go to the producers. And we're like, okay, we're ready whenever you are. And they're like, we're not going to get to you for a few days. I'm like, well, okay. And I was like, what do you want me to do? I mean, do you want me to take care of anything? And they're like, nah, go see Prague. So I just walked over I went to the Hellboy set and was on set for Hellboy during the filming of Rasputin and the Glove when he's summoning Hellboy, which was great because that was like, for me, the most important thing I made on Hellboy was that a big chunk of that glove. And so I got to, I did very little other than babysit the stuntman and make sure that the animatronic pieces for the Frankenstein bits were not broken when he would land on a pad, that kind of thing. But very little. What I got out of it was a 2-week trip to Prague and then hung out on this Hellboy set.
That is, what a better way to earn a vacation than to show up for your work and then be like, we really don't need you as much as we thought you did. Like, fine, that's cool. I got some friends over here I'm going to go hang out with.
That's what I did. I just went over, was in the shop for a while over there, do whatever. Like, I was feeling like I was getting paid already by Van Helsing, so why not work and do the work that I wanted to do? So.
Now, I remember the original Men in Black being very heavy in the puppets. Like, there's, of course, a lot of CGI in that as well, but there was a lot of really great puppetry. I don't remember there being too much in the sequel, but I see that on your credits as well. What kind of work did you have to do there?
Was a fuck ton. Let me tell you. I know you guys can edit that out, but there were so many puppets. We had, let's go back to some screen share. Let me show you some more.
Please show us everything. Dick pics, everything. We don't care. We're not picky.
All right.
We're not doing that tonight, Tom. We're not doing that tonight.
Oh, sorry. OnlyFans. If you go to our Patreon, you can donate $5.99 and you can see everything.
So here was Warriors of Virtue. That's me in a monkey suit. There as the suit performer for that character. Doug is the silver looking kangaroo there.
I remember that now. Now that you've shown me that, I remember that. It's phenomenal.
Kung Fu kangaroos. This is live. This is what I did the lip sync. I was puppeteering all the lips on this character.
Everybody had to have a Kung Fu something back then, right? With the success of the Turtles, everybody did. There was the Kung Fu kangaroos. There was that Lost in Dinosaur Land or whatever it was. Yeah. I'm like the only person remembers that thing. I'm like, it was so great. T-Rex, Mr. Big. It wasn't that great.
Here was George of the Jungle, the Tukey bird.
Yes, I loved George of the Jungle so freaking much.
Konica commercial that I did with Lazzarini. This was a beer commercial down in Brazil. Dr. Doolittle. Where the hell?
Oh, you did the dog?
I made this walking rig for the dog. So the dog was mostly a real dog, but there was a time when it's walking next to Eddie Murphy and it's looking up and talking. So there's Bill Beretta, who was in the Earl suit, by the way, laying down, and his arm goes up through the chest and is operating the head, and the legs on the sled were all timed together so that the movement of the forward of the sled would be the same matched walk cycle for the dog. So you could have speed or slow it down. And the key was we were getting all of this scapula movement. I was getting all those shoulders to go up and down. That was what that whole walking rig was about, was to make it look like it was actually moving as it walked.
Amazing.
So here's Men in Black 2. This was this guy was called Flapjack. He's just in line in the immigration inside the headquarters. That was what the insides of him looked like. He was sort of all welded and stiff below, but his waist moved, and his hands were what we call free animation, which were they were just loose, and I would attach them to the table, and I could move the body. So, but his arms would just sort of go because they stayed, you know, the elbows and the shoulders would move.
You know, some people would say that it kind of takes away from the movie when you see things like this, but not me. I feel like it makes it even more magical because then after you see things of this caliber, you're like, wow, all this work that goes into making things that I've enjoyed my entire life, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, like watching. Where's the good shot? This, like shots like this, with a bunch of guys. Yes. Leaning around the AT-AT model, working on it. Yes. Like this was the stuff that just floored me. This is what exploded my head and said, I've got to do this. Yeah.
Do you know, the most random thing I used to love about things like Thunderbirds, things like that, was the flying shots.
Yes.
You see all the smoke going underneath the wings and you'd see it flying for the air.
Yeah. And you'd see the treadmill going by with the little trees and everything below. Yep.
Amazing.
Eric Meddings. He was a genius. He did all the models and all the effect shots. He's like this unsung genius that really deserves a lot more credit from the effects industry.
Can I ask you as well about because obviously one of your biggest credits was an award-winning one, and that was Benjamin Button, the makeup, right?
So I was called in by Brian Sipe, who Brian, if you'll notice when you watch The Mandalorian, is the lead makeup effects guy on that. I worked with Brian on multiple shows, love working with him. He called me up and said, can you come puppeteer for us? And Captive Audience had built the Two Babies, which was old, young Benjamin Button, you know, the newborn as an old shriveled up little baby puppet. And then when he's very old and he turns back into a very soft, normal looking newborn. Yeah. They built both these puppets and they needed somebody to go to New Orleans to puppeteer them. And so I went and did the puppeteering. So when we first see Benjamin Button, when the guy walks down the stairs and bumps into the child left on the thing, that's all a puppet. And there's also it on the bed and a couple of places where she's changing the diaper and things. Those are all puppets.
Wow.
And then when Benjamin dies in Kate's arms, when she's holding him as he's turns into this infant and finally passes, I was puppeteering that death rattle. That was my, I got to sit there and watch Kate act and David Fincher direct me and me make the baby die.
Wow, what an achievement. Well, that's amazing. That's a brilliant film. Brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, Fincher, I got to work with David Fincher, fuck yeah.
Well, technically, you worked with two different David Finchers. You worked with the one on Aliens 3, and then you worked with the actual David Fincher that we all know about.
I never got to actually meet him on Alien 3 because I was always in the shop, but gotcha. I told him about that, and we had long conversations about that. He was a cool guy. He's a brilliant guy. It's nice to see a director of that caliber, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny because late in my career, I got to work with what I feel were some of my favorite directors. I got to work with Guillermo, fucking hell. I got to work with Guillermo del Toro. I got to work with M. Night on, I came in and puppeteered on Lady in the Water for this run.
No shit.
And I got to work with David Fincher. It's like, I got to work with some serious fucking director. This was awesome. You know,
Out of your long history of working with these amazing directors, what's the moment that is going to fire when one day we're all going to die one day? I don't know. I don't mean to break this to you, Peter. We're all going to die one day.
God, we are.
And yeah,
we didn't all die this year.
That's so true. What's the thing that's going to flash? What's the greatest memory you're going to bring with you?
So for me, like the greatest film I got to work on was probably Hellboy, because Guillermo took what we built and spotlighted it. He made many things I made were like, when people would say, what did you do on a film? Well, did you see those 3 frames in the dark back there? Like that happened all of a sudden quick. That was the puppet I worked on. No, Guillermo like shines a light on your puppet and makes sure you all see what this amazing thing was. And that was that was so awesome to be able to have done that. Like that really made my day or my life, basically, is to be able to be worked on do a thing and have it be so revered by the director on set to show it off. I mean, that glove still sits in, down in Spectral Motion's front office, but like Adam Savage built a complete replica of it from many of my drawings. I sent him a bunch of my drawings that he then gave that replica to Guillermo, because Guillermo didn't have one for his place, and that Guillermo really wanted one. He couldn't have the real one.
The Mythbusters guys definitely did they did a real nice thing for the FX community, because they really shined a light on all the amazing cool things that kind of go into it and how you can do it at home. Which brings me to my next question. When there's people like me, like my introduction to your line of work, sir, was I saw Wes Craven's New Nightmare. When that came out back in like 96 or something along those lines. And part of the movie was meta, because it was a movie within a movie referring to a movie. And they have like this whole FX team that's controlling the Freddy movie that they're doing. So that was my introduction. When you run across people that are amazed like me and Alex by your work, what kind of advice do you give them if they want to jump in the field?
Mainly, build or sculpt or solve the niche that works best for you. Like, which is it? Are you going to be a mold maker? Are you really good painter with the airbrush? Like, is that sort of what you do? Are you a makeup artist? Are you, do you like to make mechanisms move? Build a bunch, and then build your resume or your portfolio of working things before you go to a shop to say, I've made this on my own. I mean, back when I was doing it, we didn't have YouTube. There was no class or way to learn from any of this. Like you got to see the Art of Star Wars books, and you got to see a making of movie that would be on television once in a while. And if you were lucky enough to record it with your VCR, then you could watch it over again. But that was sort of it back in the day. And now there's so much available to you to sort of go out and discover and find. And many effects artists put a bunch of their stuff up there, like how to build an eye mechanism. I've seen quite a few things out there on the internet that are pretty good too.
This is amazing. Amazing. I want to give a shout out to Radiate by Rachel, at Radiate by Rachel on Instagram, who is a body transformation makeup artist who was on USUK Chronicles, and she asked that same question, Tom. So I wanted to give her a shout out. But also, is there any like if you've got a young teenage son who wants to go into your line of work, are there any toys out there? I mean, obviously you got Meccano and Kinects and Lego and things like that. Is there anything that worked for you or you would recommend to parents?
I mean, mostly I always worked in Lego. You have Meccano, which was erector sets here, but I learned a lot of my mechanism from playing with Lego and having gears and having lever arms and sort of understanding what these things are and how they move. I went to art school. I'm not an engineer yet. My day job is basically I'm a mechanical designer, so It's kind of funny. I chose a very different path than what most people would think would be the right way. Let's Grant Imahara, who recently passed this year. He went to school and was an electrical engineer and became an effects artist out of that. Mm-hmm. But I went to art school and became an effects guy. So different paths, different way of doing it.
We're running down our time just about, but I got to get
Oh my
one more
God,
in.
running out the clock.
I know, right? Well, generally we don't have to, but we like to try to be respectful of our guests and not be like, well, you know, we said an hour and all that good stuff. What is the thing? Oh man, I just really had it too. Sorry. It's my question is,
Wow.
I know, right? I had it, and I've been
I'll
like
just
really
let these go through. You keep talking, and I'll just.
I'm enjoying the slideshow.
Look at the babies. Yeah, look at the baby.
Do you want me to go first? You all right?
Yeah, you go first. You go first. I'm gonna rethink my thought.
I'll tell you what I'll do. Right, we got a couple of listener questions that we got sent in.
Yeah, you might ask mine.
James Stafford from the Talking Codswallop show asks, what has been your most complex, challenging work, Peter?
Which was my question.
Complex, challenging work. We had a baby Hellboy that never made it into the shot. They ended up going full CG.
I mean, that might be a baby Hellboy, but his penis is already bigger than mine, so I don't know about this baby thing.
So there's Bishop Head.
Wow.
What's probably the most challenging thing? I mean, I've done one of the things I'm working on right now where I'm not in effects anymore. I work at a place called Applied Invention, and we do, you know, lots of mechanical and software, and we're sort of a R&D think tank company that makes stuff for our clients, and sort of do prototypes and sort of, okay, here's what we think would solve your problem. Now you guys go make 100,000 of them. We made 2 for you. That kind of thing. I'm working currently on a 10,000 year clock that is in a mountain in West Texas. The Long Now, if you go to longnow.org, you will see a bunch of the stuff about, and that's one of the things I'm working on. That is definitely challenging. That is some of the stuff, like, because of just the material properties alone of having to go with some of the stainless steels and titaniums and all the things we're having to learn to do. It's a mechanical clock with no electrical components. So like you got to keep it running for 10,000 years mechanically. And it is crazy, and no lubrication.
Are you telling me that you're working on like almost a perpetual motion device of some sort?
Not perpetual motion. Gravity is still involved, and you know there are things that we're doing with using the day-night cycle to impart some power and a bunch of other stuff, but it's pretty crazy.
What about that clock they invented in Switzerland, I believe, that was powered off of dead fly carcasses, if I'm not mistaken? Do you remember hearing about that?
I don't know.
I'll send you a little bit about. Maybe you can incorporate it. We'll just start throwing. Bad people, and they'll be like, "All right, that'll power the clock for a couple thousand years." Thank you.
Amazing, a 10,000 year old clock. We do have another one as well. Graham Arnold writes in and says, any particular artwork relics from ancient Egypt inspire you when you were filming Stargate?
So I wasn't in the design aspect of Stargate. They'd already, like, that was Patrick Totopoulos who really did a lot of the design work on that. I did all the work on the model. There's a pyramid shot of it opening when the ship lands, and then the pyramid, like all these parts slide and move. That was probably like 6 foot by 6 foot by 4 feet tall model pyramid with all this mechanical elements to make these parts slide. That's what I worked on. That was the stuff I did. So sadly, I wasn't in the design element. They had already handled all of that, what they looked into, you know, how it was going
to be part of that franchise and that legacy. The legacy that it created, that was pretty special. So, you know, I really like that.
Through film history, when you look at all the amazing special effects that have been done and all the animatronics, if there was one film that you wished you could have been a part of, what would it have been?
Oh, Empire. Like,
yeah, good man.
Come on,
good man. I mean, I gotta ask. Me and my wife are picking out couples tattoos right now because we've been married for a very long time. We haven't got a tattoo for one another, so we're actually going to steal the Empire line, and I'm gonna get I know tattooed on me, and she's gonna get I love you.
I love you.
I love exactly. I was like, that's such a pimp thing to say. Like, it is the most pimp thing to ever say ever.
Yeah, this was Beethoven. This was the dog. We'd made a
What?
full puppet dog just
That
so it could do
movie
things that the real dog can, just in case.
Is horrible, not in a bad way, but I mean, like, it's traumatizing for children. It's all about putting down of dogs. Like,
Yes.
they murder dogs constantly in
Yes.
that movie.
Yes, they do.
Wow, look how good that looks, though.
Yeah, Norman
looks
Cabrera. Norman Cabrera, Norman Tempia did a lot of the work on this that made that. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, when you put the real dog next to it, not so much, but a shot like this, you'd be like, wait, that's a real dog. You know, that was.
It's amazing. Okay. Look, watching.
So there's Doug Jones. This was Legend of Galgameth.
That is awesome looking. What you guys can't see is there's this creature's skull with some really kind of sharp teeth, this horn protruding from the top of the head. When watching all the movies and all the special effects that we've seen, what's something that you wish you could have had your hands on to fix and change because you don't think it was done quite as well, with no disrespect to the people that did it?
As I say, that's dangerous territory, that is.
Yeah,
No,
it is.
I'm not. That's why I throw in the caveat of like no disrespect, because I'm not saying that you're saying that they did badly or they didn't do their job correctly, but you're like, oh wow, if I could have had my hands in that, I would have approached it like this.
There has definitely been a few things I've seen, and I can't really, isolate any of the ones, but mainly the thing that I always sort of notice, even a bad puppet can be saved by good puppeteering, and a good puppet can be destroyed by bad puppeteering. And over puppeteering something, making something move just because it can move, isn't how nature works. Like, animals conserve energy. They do not waste energy on excess movement. That was one of those things I learned on Born to Be Wild, the madcap adventures of a boy and his gorilla. We had a primatologist that was on the thing, and watching gorillas move, they will do just the amount of movement they have to save their calories, so they won't waste energy in excess movement, unlike humans like me, gesturing too much. So pulling everything back, less is more, I usually find, and which is why sort of Grogu works so well, is a lot of times he's very subtle. He barely moves. He just tips his head slightly. He'll just sort of give a little look. That's enough to make you believe it's real. You don't need it going like, all the time.
Most important question though is,
can
you tell a blue wire from a red wire? That's all I want to know.
All I want to know. I have great color vision. Now, maybe if I had I was down at, however many thousands of feet that Bud was with the, having to sit there with the luminous stick and try to cut the right wire, but the little NTIs come and save me. No. Sorry. Abyss reference. Somebody has to go back and watch some Jim Cameron movies if they haven't known it.
Is that like Robot Wars? Is that something that
it is? Yeah.
So I mean, one of the things that I do and competed in and was Robot Wars started in the US, and I was there with Marks Attracting at the very beginning. And we actually took a couple of robots to the UK to show off to the BBC what could possibly be done. And then the BBC show got started, got greenlit.
Did you ever get to fight Grant? Because he was another BattleBots.
Yes, he was a BattleBots. We were never in the same weight class. So I never fought Grant. I knew Grant, but we never I think he had a heavyweight and I had a super.
Yeah, of course you did. Look at you.
And then that evolved into BattleBots, and I did BattleBots on Comedy Central for 5 seasons or whatever, and multiple different other pay-per-views and things. And this time when BattleBots came back for ABC and then now on Discovery, Greg Munson, who was my best friend since 7th grade and co-creator and co-owner of BattleBots, said, Pete, what are you going to build? And I did a budget and said, how much you're going to pay? And he said, well, here's the stipend. And I said, wow, that doesn't match my build budget. So what can I do on set? What can I do behind the scenes with you to help make the show happen? So I became sort of this technical liaison for the on-air talent so that I could tell them when they're sitting there watching and they're like talking about the smoke coming out of a robot, I can say, that white smoke that's coming out, that's a lithium battery that's on fire. And you'll hear them all of a sudden, Chris and Kenny will go, check out the lithium battery that's on fire by all that white smoke pouring out of his robot. And so I did that for a couple seasons. Well, now the latest season, I am on camera as what we call the bot whisperer. They go to me. Actually, Chris and Kenny say, hey, Pete, what do you think of this next fight? Who do you think is going to do? And I'm actually on camera as the bot whisperer.
I've watched a lot of BattleBots. I thought it was such a cool show, and I still think it's a very cool show. Now, they have like the Juggernaut robots, right? Like they have the robots that come up and they clean house, and they're like
no, that was Robot Wars UK had Housebots. BattleBots is just 2 or possibly 3 or 4 robots.
Yeah.
Okay. So then my question has nothing to do with anything, and I quietly retract everything at the same, because I was because my real thing about was, it's like those robots were so much better than the other robots. What kind of stipulations get put on? So like, because wouldn't you just build a house robot at that point? Be like, fuck you, I got a great robot.
The house robots were way overweight, were way overpowered, and that was the whole point of them, is to provide entertainment when the fight was boring, and to come in and sort of like adjust the way things were going.
They cancelled it in the UK. They cancelled Robot Wars. I was like, why? It's one of the best things on TV. I used to love it so much. I used to get, we used to crowd around as a family to watch it when it got to the
now
final.
you got, I think now you can get BattleBots. Yeah.
Did you do? Oh wow, that was just a scene from the orca. From the orca.
So
from Jaws.
this is a lot of my Lego builds.
That's
this
awesome.
was a stop motion. I don't know if you know who Fawn Davis is. He's an effects artist. He's got his own shop. He's done a lot of models. He worked on Star Wars. He worked on Blade Runner 2049. Like, he's worked on a shit ton of stuff. He's a really accomplished guy. And for his 50th birthday, I did a stop motion of Vader walking down, basically getting ready to say, dispense with the pleasantries, Commander. I'm here to wish Fawn a happy birthday. And he slips and falls and the helmet comes shooting off. Reminding me of why I don't do stop motion, because it's so much work and it took so long to do. But this was just sort of a shot from the set, you know.
Did you watch the Star Wars Lego Holiday special that they put on Disney Plus by chance?
I did, and I realized that I probably wasn't on enough cocaine to enjoy it properly, because it was a little over the top and a little too much. It was just like, I mean, there was a lot of great little moments for fan service that were thrown in there, but it just pummeled you, and it just wouldn't stop. I was like, okay, I can't breathe, you know. So.
Oh my God, this has been more than I could have ever wanted it to be, Peter. You have just been a delight. You are so full of knowledge. You've done everything that has made me happy through my entirety. And I'm just so grateful that you took this time to come out and talk to us today, man.
Very rarely I get the warm glow I'm getting right now from a podcast. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've been
hey. I can't reach out that far through the internet and touch you with those spots,
you
absolutely,
you've touched me all over, Peter. You really have, and I would love to get you back on just to talk just all this stuff. You know,
look,
there's so much we could talk about. There's the Burbank Magnolia Park. Look at that. That's amazing.
Peter, thank you so much for everything today, man. This has just been one of those episodes where I just had more fun than I could have possibly imagined. And I'm just like, look at the time, I'm like, fuck, is it really that time? But sir, we want you to come back on eventually.
I will come back any day, whenever you want.
Oh my God.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Don't worry
so
about
much.
it.
Thank you.
God, so
I am currently building for Bricks LA, which is a big Lego convention that happens here in LA. It's going to be virtual, of course, this year because 2020 and COVID.
Yeah.
So here he is. This cannot be purchased. I had to take and custom the Jango Fett helmet to make it into his Beskar helmet.
Hold that up again. Can I take a picture of it? Make everyone jealous.
We could put in much better imagery. Like I could do. Let's do it nice. There we go. So you can see the full.
Hold on.
And of course.
I love that fucking show so much.
Full rifle. And then I'm working on some vignettes. Most of them are work right now because I'm going to photograph them. But I'm Moff Gideon. I've got to do all the destruction on the TIE fighter so far and stick this into the ground. But he's a custom fig and the Darksaber is a custom Darksaber. So, but most people don't really care about things like
You're
that.
gonna have to send me some pictures because I didn't get any
do.
decent
Yes.
pictures there.
Don't worry, I will send you photos. Here is a trophy for people that are. This is what I call the Beskar Mudhorn Mandalorian Award of Excellence.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm a fucking nerd, dudes.
Yes. So are we. So we could smell our own, we can feel our own, and we fucking
Yes.
love you for it, sir. God damn, this has been excellent.
I have been a nerd since before it was ever cool. Back when you used to get stuffed in lockers.
Yeah,
You know,
but
that
you know
kind
what?
of thing.
News to them. You got to work with Beethoven, so fuck everyone.
We've got
else is what I'm
emotional
saying.
depth. We can deal with it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, sorry, Peter. How can people follow you? How can they keep track of what you're up to?
So like with BattleBots, the Bot Whisperer, I think we just have on Twitter at the Bot Whisperer. Also on Facebook, I think I have a Facebook page. There's also for my Lego stuff, I have the Ronin Brick Studio. That's sort of my Lego side. Let's reach. Do you guys remember? You guys may actually be a little young for this, but
I already know what it is.
When they made Star Wars action figures in 77, you couldn't get them at the end of the year for Christmas. You got a giant piece of cardboard that you mailed in, and then they sent you the first 4 figs, right? And with that, there was a coupon to get the next, like to get a stand to hold the complete 12, I think it was, that was going to come out that year. So this was always like the coveted thing, was to have this display stand as well as to have all the figs when I was a kid. Well, I duplicated that, but completely in Lego, without using minifigs, but trying to do it all in brick. And if you look at this, everything in here is a Lego thing that I Photoshopped. I took the kits, I matched the shot, spent a whole shit ton of time getting the angles of the cameras right, and matched the shot and Photoshopped it all together to make.
Wow.
It's an early bird display stand.
That is amazing.
You see, Peter, I'm such a fucking nerd. I knew exactly what that was just by the background of it because I'm a fucking nerd as well.
So I've got good photos of all these things, Alex. So we can, like, I can send you a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, please do. Because what I'll do is I might do like a tile work sort of thing.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I'll build a nice like a Google Drive or something that I'll drop all this stuff in and have probably retitle each image so that it has you have a knowledge of what the fuck you're looking at.
Absolutely.
Not that you guys wouldn't, because you're nerds. And
him more than me. I mean, I am, but like, yeah.
Oh, you're a nerd. Don't try to cool your way out of this now, Fonz. You are just in the same boat. You are potty to my Richie. Hey.
Well, I got my toys and stuff everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, you fucking do. You got toys. Peter, thank you again for coming on. Generally, what we do now is me and Alex are going to play a little catch up. We haven't seen each other in a couple weeks. We've been busy guys. We got families and stuff. So now we kind of, we do our own thing for a few minutes. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Peter.
you. I appreciate the time. This was a blast.
I'll be in touch after this, and we'll reconnect soon. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, and welcome to the Later Lounge with Alex Whiteley and Tom Bruno. That's how I'm doing things now. It's the Later Lounge. We'll split up.
Do we get our dick sucked in the Later Lounge?
No, what we do now is we open up another beer. We relax. Lower the lights. Lower the lights.
Wow, the Later Lounge. I feel so relaxed in this fucking place.
Are
those prostitutes?
Yeah, man. Seats are a bit sticky, but it's fine. It's fine.
It's not soda, kids. It's semen. Wow, dude. That was one of those interviews that I don't even know what to say about it. It was fucking amazing.
I was so excited for the whole thing. I was just like, I had this like real like almost childlike sort of excitement in my chest for that. So Peter, if you listen to this back, honestly, seriously, thank you so much for that, because Like, we love what we do, and we've got every respect for all of our guests, but to feel that kind of excitement and that kind of warm glow at the same time, that is exactly why we do this. That's why we do what we do. So thank you for reminding me, Peter. That was a really good show, and I want to speak to him just about robot wars and battle bots. In all honesty, like, I would sit for ages talking about that shit.
He just keeps giving content. Like, we've had plenty of times where, you know, the guests, they really rely on us to keep the show going. We have a destination we want to get to.
Yeah.
We have a fucking point. And then you have people like Robert Bruce and like fucking Peter, who could do their own show by themselves. They don't need us, and they have all the most interesting stuff in the world to say.
And I think it's true what he says. Like, he's a nerd before it was cool. It is kind of, if you've got your hand on anything that's sort of original Star Wars or anything that was part of a lot of the franchises that Peter's worked on, that's some good shit right there. That's some good shit, you know.
Top tier geek right there, man.
Top tier. So yeah, well found, Tom, and thank you again, Peter. So while we're up in this bar, sipping these drinks and stuff, how you been, man? You have a nice Christmas?
It was a Christmas, man. Like, it's always the same thing, right? Like, there's a lot of excitement leading up to it, but then by the time that you get to the actual day, you're just like, please let this fucking shit be over with. I want to get back to my normal life.
Yes, amen. I mean, we just moved into our apartment, which is great. We said, like, whereas Christmas was on the Friday, Christmas Eve was on the Thursday. We had our keys on Monday. We had everything moved in by Wednesday, tree set up for Christmas Eve. It was absolutely fucking crazy. I mean, we were moving things till early hours of the morning. We were backing to from storage. It was just absolute craziness. We were flat packing. It was just, we just wanted it. I was like, babe, we might have to, you know, sort of move a few things in, stay at your mom's, go to finish it off at Christmas. And she was like, no, I want to be in there for Christmas. And she would. I mean, we're fair play. So.
Dude, good, more power to you, because what a relief it must have been to finally sit back and relax and be like, wow, everything that we've been working towards and waiting for the last fucking year. Because I mean, thankfully you had a place to stay. Your mother-in-law was beautiful for you guys and stuff, but it's never going to be your house there. This is now your house, and I commend you for dealing with all the stresses that you had to this entire time and still showing up and editing and promoting and doing everything you else did. So, dude, thank you for working as hard as you have last year, man.
I mean, thank you. I really do appreciate that. But it's not the thing that I've felt guilty about is feeling bad about it in the first place, is because there's people out there dying, and there's people out there like at war, and there's all sorts going on in the world. What the fucking right have I got? Like when TS came to us to do the Hot Wing Challenge, and I've been saying, oh yeah, I've got kind of technically homeless for Christmas, and then we drove into the underground car park, and then we got in the elevator and went to this nice apartment, and I felt really guilty for being sad about the situation I was in. But it was more like an emotional, mental. I hated the fact that my mother-in-law had to give up her house for us. I like to be independent,
Oh yeah.
It's just one of those things. But we got there, and I want to say thank you to my wife, because Kaz really did work her fucking ass off, so yeah.
Let's thank all of our family members. We did so on the Wednesday show, but this is our show, so anyone that's listening, any of our family members, any of our loved ones, thank you so much for putting up with our bullshit week in and week out, letting us express ourselves artistically and doing this silly little thing that we just love so much. You and me spoke a tiny bit earlier this week, and you were kind of giving me the rough points of what goes into making a building safe in Britain and what kind of complications you ran into and why you couldn't just get your house. Do you want to kind of give me the rundown a little bit? Because I made you stop telling me because it just sounded so fucking alien.
It was okay. So since Grenfell, everybody around the world remembers Grenfell in London. Sort of like 80 odd people died in a burning, really tall block of flats, and it went up on fire. It was on the news everywhere around the world. Like 85 people died, and it was because the cladding on the outside was unfit for purpose. So actually, instead of doing what it's supposed to do, it actually made the fire move quicker up and down the building. But since that happened, building regulations have got stricter, and what they did with our place is it's a 2 blocks of flats with a thingy, fucking coach house above the top, right? And when they built it, it was meant to be a stay put scheme. What's called a stay put scheme. So fire doors close when the fire is announced by the alarms, and everybody waits in their apartment till the fire brigade turn up. What?
And this is the part that really threw me through a fucking loop, Alex, because when the moment that you're like, oh no, what they want us to do is, in case the building's on fire, is not escape it, is to sit still nice and pretty and calm and just trust the fact that they built the fucking house properly.
Yeah. I'm going to type in rules of a stay put property.
I don't care if they're like, if you're in a fireproof, tornado-proof, earthquake-proof shelter that nothing, not even the hand of God can touch you in here. I'd be like, fuck you. I'm still running out the door when shit comes knocking. I'm not going to put my trust in men. Men are fallible as fuck. I'm high all the time. Like, I don't trust people.
Fire rules. I don't know how to word this. But what they've done anyway, they turned this place originally into a stay put property, and the alarm company, who are like kind of like God, were like, no, it's got to be evacuation. So everything is set up differently in that circumstance. So they had to change the alarms, you had to change the doors and the things that were going on inside the doors and things like that, and it took a long time. Okay. I found something here by the nationalfirechiefs.org. It says fire and rescue services with the local authorities, developers, and management committees and tenants. The advice provided by fire and rescue services based on the effective fire arrangements. Blah, blah, blah. If there is a fire inside a flat or masonette, the advice is to alert all the people in the flat and leave the property and close all doors. They should follow a predetermined escape plan if there is a lot of smoke in the flat. People should crawl along the floor where the air is clearer. Should always use the stairways rather than the lift. If there is a fire elsewhere in the building, then the structure of the flat walls, floor to there, they're designed to give appropriate protection. It is important for responsible owners to ensure the high-risk buildings are properly constructed and any refurbishment. Blah, 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 blah.
So essentially, you're in like this encased room that's going to keep the fire away from you. I mean, like, have you ever been like in a situation where the fire doors have shut and everything? You've been locked in there?
I've seen fire doors close, yeah, because I've been a fire marshal for like where I work and for Asda as well, like Walmart. So I would test the alarms and things. But there is a bit here that says if there is a fire elsewhere in the building, then the other than the sort of the structure of the flat walls. Oh no, sorry. If there is a fire in your building but not inside your home, then you are usually safer to stay in your flat unless the heat or smoke from the fire is affecting you. If you stay put, you should still immediately call 999 for advice and to ensure that the fire and rescue service, along with attending emergency crews, have been notified. So, like, if there's like a fire in a place other than my home, rather than go out into the smoke and fucking probably kill yourself on your way out, sometimes it's better to stay safe, stay inside, stay put.
I'm
doesn't
just
make
too
sense
much
to
of a
me either.
coward. I would have been like, get me out of here! Oh my God! It's not like the fire's gonna get to the door. I'd be like, no, sorry, they're in one of those fire safe rooms. I'm gonna ignore this place right now.
Well, we are advised to do that now anyway because we are an evacuation premises. So
yeah,
but that was the problem,
like motherfucker. Yeah, that was the problem.
There was an argument between the two companies that built the house, then the company that bought the house, and they were arguing and they were like back and two, and then COVID and all that sort of shit. That's why it took so long. But yeah, that's
now you're safe. You're safe and you're sound. You're in your own place. You can walk around with your dick out. It's good stuff.
I've been helicopter dicking my way up and down this corridor.
That's how you get from room to room, just fucking carried by the propulsion of your dick.
Budgie the helicopter. Fucking Airwolf.
I was thinking more like your dick's got a goofy face like Harold the helicopter from Thomas the Train.
Yeah.
Watch out, Kaz. I'm putting out a fire. Woo! Alex, if you pee on me, I'm divorcing you.
But yeah. What about that award show we did the week, by the way? That was good fun, wasn't it?
That was good fun. I don't know, man. Like I love that we did it. It was fucking awesome and stuff. I just like you're always so on top of your game, and I always feel like I'm just not prepared for anything at all. So when you're like, Tom, announce these things, I'm like, yeah, totally. Let me announce these things.
I got a confession to make. I actually missed out one of the awards.
Oh.
If you remember, when you go back to when we were dishing out the individual awards to the hosts, everybody got an award but Jamie, and I fucking forgot Jamie's, and I've got it. I've got it here. It's the I've got it here. It's the Ginger in Denial Award.
Oh.
And I was going to give that to him. It's here. It's the host of the year one. It's here.
Yeah.
And I was going to give it to him and be like, yeah, Ginger in Denial Award, congratulations. But then go on to sort of say how good of a job he's done, you know? It's a lead into. So I'm glad he won the host of the year, to be honest, because we'd gone the whole show about giving him an award, bless him. So, Jamie, I do apologize. And your award is in the post all the way from Wuhan. Just make sure you
spit on it,
blow off the box.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It was good fun. I enjoyed it.
My PS4 fucking is not working properly.
Oh no, what a shame. Oh, that is actually
wow. I hate you so much.
No, I don't know why I did that. That was an old Xbox sort of rivalry shit, but I got a PlayStation now. I forget.
Bigot. You're a system bigot. I've been playing a lot of Sega today. I got my Sega emulator that I got a couple Christmases to work, and I was just fucking around with it all night because I really wanted to play some old school Sega. And it's not bad. Like the problem is that like nowadays they're re-releasing all these games on Nintendo Switch, and they're better. Like not maybe the same feelings that you have playing them, but they're still better quality. Even Sonic, which is the thing that they really changed about this cool little Sonic game, is they have all like the Emerald Hill stuff. It's all connected. Like so, instead of ending phase 1, then going into phase 2 and starting with 1 and 2, it's all connected. So you literally just run through the whole thing, and then you get to your boss battle. It's not bad.
That's cool, man. Do you know what? Actually, weird that you brought that up because I've been thinking about that for some strange reason. I was thinking about Warner Brothers and the way they. I don't know if you've seen Wonder Woman yet.
I have the DVD, so I'm gonna watch it probably this weekend.
You need to watch it before the 16th because Eric Pfluger is coming on our show, and we're going to talk about. Me and Eric are putting something very cool together. I can announce that we're doing something. I just can't announce what it's going to be called and what we're going to be doing. You know, we want to put the particulars in place first, but this is going to be a test on the 16th of us. Sort of taking a movie apart for an hour, and we're going to be doing Wonder Woman. And I need to talk to you because Warner Brothers have no fucking idea how to end a movie. They can't. Suicide Squad, bullshit, absolute fucking. We had fucking this weird disco dancing and bullets coming from nowhere. It's just a terrible thing. Then there was Justice League, terrible ending. What the fuck was that? And then Wonder Woman, obviously, you watch that and you.
Woman.
And I was thinking of Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie. I was thinking. Yeah. The ending of that was the boss you get at the end of the Sonic level. That was perfect. It's so perfect. Yes. Yeah. So
what the fuck was I about to say though? Oh, I've been rewatching a lot of Futurama. You got me kicked back on it. You were bragging about how Timmy was watching with you. I was like, fuck, I missed that show. And I've been rewatching every episode, and it's still so fucking good.
It's aged so good. So good. Like that program will never lose its magic. I don't think
we got to get somebody from that has worked on Future as much as you love that show. I know you're working. We're always working on something. Speaking of working on something, fucking hey, we're on a network, aren't we?
Yes, we are on a network. We are on a network called USUK. USUK. Before we get into sort of talking about the shows,
I didn't. Sorry, my bad. I thought we were kind of dying to a little. No.
We are. We're going to talk about the network. But the weekly bizarre has come to an end. I just thought I'd announce that because my two amazing co-hosts, Lucy and Shane, have both come across sort of situations in their life where they can't put the time for the show anymore. And I wanted to say there are no bad vibes between me, Shane, or Lucy. I love them guys to pieces. There's no issues between us. We love each other so much still, and we'll do some weekly bizarre sort of specials and stuff. We can do that, but they're going to do their own thing, and so we're going to be starting something new. So watch this space. There is going to be something new coming, and it's probably going to be this week that you're listening to this. So there is no weekly bizarre anymore. but we have something coming. But yes, we have this show, which is What's the Difference podcast, which, by the way, the lineup for the next sort of month or so is just phenomenal. You guys are going to love what we got planned for you. 2021 is going to be the fucking year for us. I'm telling you right now. And we also have USUK Chronicles, which is with Jamie Westwood and Tom Stevens, and they are kicking all kinds of ass. He had a guy from For the Love of Wrestling on recently, talking about wrestling. They've had some amazing guests. I love what they do. So keep an eye out. If you've never watched USUK Chronicles, make sure you try it out. Just make sure you come back here.
Yeah.
Afterwards,
come back to where you heard the information. It's great to branch out, but come back to your lover. To us.
Yeah. This dick ain't for want to forget about shit.
You can't. Once you go, what's the difference? You can't go back.
I read the article. It's above average. I don't give a fuck how big it is. It's above average. And we also have Wednesday Night Live, our live show, which is amazing. It's very popular. People love it. We got Tom and Tom. Who
T squared.
Yeah. T squared. We'll make sure you join us for that. Sorry, I'm all out of sorts. Talking about the Weekly Bazaar, it's kind of upset me a bit, but fuck it. It is what it is. People got lives. There's more important things than podcasting.
Do you want to cry on my shoulder a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
But that's okay though, because we have lots of entertainment that we're bringing to you in the 2021. We have an amazing wing challenge that we're doing February 3rd, so make sure you keep your calendars open for this. That will be a Wednesday night live, and the week prior to that, we actually have a man that's going to teach us all about the insanely hot food that we're going to be shoving into our gullets. So make sure that you keep your eyes open on this fucking channel, guys, because we don't do it for us, we do it for you, and by you we mean you suck.
Yes, absolutely. Well, look, this has been What's the Difference podcast. I've been Alex Whiteley.
I'm Tom Brill. What?
And we're going to get the fuck out of here. Take it easy, guys, and peace out.